Here. Dr. Rivera.
Here.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Montville Township Board of Education provided a public notice of this meeting, which included the time, date, and location that was posted at the Montville Township Municipal Building, all Montville Public Schools, the Montville Public Library, the Montville Township Board of Education Administrative Office Building, the district website, and advertised in the Daily Record and Montville Tap Into, the board's official newspapers, on January 28, 2024.
Thank you.
Right. Dr. Gorman, you have support.
I do have several things. We lose the area back there? What's that? It's not working? All right, so I'll just start off with another portion of the, so in your weekly, the packet, I gave you the district goals and the board of ed goals that were voted on and adopted last June into July, and then we added all the action plans that coincide with all of those. So you have it in your packet. If there's any questions you can reach out to me. But those are really the action plans that we're doing going forward and filling them out. Now they're reporting on them on a quarterly basis at our board meetings. Oh, I'll just start talking about it. We have, by law, we have to, there's a summary report for HID about the self-assessment that each building has to do. So I'll just start reading through sort of we do this each year, and you have a team of people from each building looking at 8 different core elements of the HID and how they're doing these different things in their school. So by category, the first one is going to be HID programs, approaches, or other initiatives. So the maximum score is a 15, and Montville Township High School scored this one as a 15, Lazard 14, the others was 15, and William Mason gave themselves 1 point lower this year at a 13. So that's an area that they want to work on a little bit more. Core element number 2 is training on Board of Ed HID policy. Maximum score is a 9. All the schools gave themselves a 9 except for Woodlawn, Valley View, and Cedar Hill. That was the same as last year. Core element 3, other staff instruction and training programs. Montville High School gave themselves a 15, which is up 1. Lazard went down 1 to a 13. Cedar Hill was a 15, and the other schools were at 14. William Mason reduced themselves at 1, and Woodlawn was 15. So each year, so this indicates to me that each one is they're looking at these things seriously each year, seeing if they did a better job or if they need some more help, moving forward for this year. Core element number 4, curriculum instruction on HID-related information and skills. Each school gave themselves a 6, which is the same as last year. That's the maximum. For HID personnel, the maximum is a 9. Each school gave themselves a 9. That's the same as last year. Core element 6, school level HID incident reporting procedure. Montville High School gave themselves a 6, which is the same as last year. Lazard was reduced by 1 down to a 5. All the other schools gave themselves a maximum 6, which is the same as last year. Number 7 was the HID investigative procedure. 12 was the total, so Montville gave themselves a 12. The high school gave themselves a 12. Lazard gave themselves -1 down to 11, and all the other schools were at 12. And the last one is HID reporting. Maximum score was a 6, and all the schools gave themselves a 6, which is the same as last year. So it's good news, and like I said, seeing the plus and the minuses shows that they are taking it seriously, looking at these things, and they will now that they're identified what they will work on, they'll continue to work on the whole deal to be sure they will be able to change the scores next year.
what does that really mean as far as the quality of their report?
No, so especially for his report and everything, they gave it some maximum, they do a great job. Looking at the scores, I put it out twice a year about the actual scores and where they were, and you see how it worked overall. We're still doing really well.
The scores are all very high.
Very high.
Very good job at it, generally speaking.
Identifying it, reporting it, dealing with it, absolutely.
Being proactive on it and doing our best. If these were scores in the single digits, I would be very concerned, but with the scores all being very high, consistent across the school.
They do really good teams, very good teams, yes.
Why would a school mark down last year?
They just might feel, because sometimes the teams change sometimes, so if you have some new members, they might say, we need to be brushed up on some training, and so then they will go to training. Like so, for instance, next month there is one being offered by the county, so maybe one or two of those people might go to that training and get brushed up on something.
Ms. Woodring, would you like to take over?
Sure. So I will be speaking with you this evening about the elementary schedule, specifically the changes to the elementary schedule that will begin when school begins in just a week and a half. Okay, so the first thing is just the agenda. So I'm going to give you some background about the science of reading, because that's what really drove us to adopt Amplify, and then from there we made adjustments to the overall schedule, adding a win period, and then also thinking about departmentalization at the 4th and 5th grade level. So on average, it takes a child 2 to 3 years to learn to decode English. It is the toughest alphabetic writing system in the world. The only one that is comparable is the Asian languages, but they're symbol-based, they're not alphabet-based. So basically the science of reading, and you might have heard a lot of this in recent years, refers to all the research that talks about how reading occurs and how children learn to read, and the instructional practices that can assist them to get them to read fluently. So at the heart of it, two researchers in 1986 proposed what we call the simple view of reading. And it says, when somebody is presented with a passage of text, how do they extract information or meaning from it? And according to the simple view, you need two things. You need to convert the written word into speech, which we call decoding, and then you need to understand that speech, which is language comprehension. So this is basically a graphic that you will see when we talk about the simple view. So if written words were pictures like emojis, one for each spoken word, children would need to learn 50,000 different pictures. Fortunately, writing instead tells you that the sounds that each word makes, and there are 44 different sounds in English. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but there is, because remember, there's only 26 letters in the alphabet. Another researcher, Scarborough, in 2001 came up with a synthesis of that simple view. So you need language comprehension, and then you need word recognition. What do the sounds, what sounds do the letters make, and then how does that become words? And then there's increasing automaticity and increasing strategic comprehension as students learn to become skilled readers. So the first point is decoding. When children first learn to read, they already understand a lot of spoken language. But words and letters are as strange to them as what you see up there. if you can't decode the symbols in a sentence, you can't read it, even if you know the language in which it's written. Sounds logical enough. So we start with decoding. Unfortunately, English is complicated. So the technical term for the sounds is the phonemes, and then you teach them what the letters, then you teach them what sounds the letters stand for. So in English, the P letter can be P as in pen, as in photo, or silent as in pterodactyl. In Spanish, the P always sounds the same, and it only has one sound associated with it. So now let's try this. A mystery word begins with the letter E. What sound does that word begin with? F, E. Anybody else? Call out. There's actually 6 possibilities. A as an end, that Karen got. E as an E, that was Michelle's. I as an I. As in English. As in early, and A as in 8. No, you. I don't know. Come on, Casey.
Why not?
So,
yeah. Or euphemism.
oh yeah, right.
Yeah, come on.
We don't have as many. So the whole point is that when children learn English, you can't just learn E as in E. You have to learn all these other things. But children in Finland only have 29 sounds that they need to learn.
Easy.
Right. So, on average, it takes children in the U.S. 2 to 3 years to decode English. And it is, as I said, the toughest alphabetic writing system in the world. In Finland, where there are no exceptions, each letter always stands for the same sound, and children only take a few months to learn to decode. Learning English is a lot harder, and it takes practice, and that practice must be deliberate. The second point about learning to read is comprehension. So there were 2 researchers in Wisconsin who worked with 64 students, and basically what they did is they took this 18 by 20 inch replica of a baseball field, and they put 4-inch wooden figures on it. And then one by one, the students were handed the same story covering an inning of a made-up baseball game and asked to reenact it. So here's the passage. Cherniak swings and hits a slow bouncing ball toward the shortstop. Haley comes in, fields it, and throws it to first, but too late. Cherniak is on first with a single. Johnson stayed on third. The next batter is Whitcomb, the Cougars' left fielder. The ball is returned to Clarison. He gets the sign and winds up and throws a slider that Whitcomb hits between Manfred and Roberts for a hit. Delaney comes in and picks up the ball. Johnson has scored, and Cherniak is heading for third. Here comes the throw, and Cherniak is out. Cherniak argues, but to no avail. So now the question is, who did best at correctly reconstructing the story? Strong readers, kids with good knowledge of baseball, or it made no difference? Kids with good knowledge of baseball. In fact, good readers who didn't know baseball scored 19 out of 40. Poor readers who knew baseball scored 27 out of 40. So what does that mean? That means that kids need to have a background in knowledge. basically, sorry for the typo and strategies. To build knowledge, students need to shift from explicit and systematic teaching to, let me start again. We shifted. So at first, we always taught kids how to build knowledge through explicit and systematic teaching. However, over time, it became more popular to teach thinking skills and strategies. And what happened was, over time, kids lost that background knowledge that helps them with the comprehension piece. So this is from a study that was done, and you can see that over time in different subjects areas that are common at the elementary level, you can see the number of instructional minutes that we have. So for reading language arts, for all elementary levels, about 87 minutes of their instructional time during the course of the day. But look at science and social studies. We're down to 20 minutes or less. And it's those subjects, that science, those social studies subjects, that is where teachers normally would build knowledge, so that kids knew about the world around them. With that deficit, we find that students have a harder time with the knowledge portion, the comprehension portion underneath. So that's why we are looking at programs like Amplify, that is a core knowledge language arts program. And what that does is, it does do the explicit systematic instruction alongside the knowledge building sequence. Basically, students will get to know how to decode, but then at the same time, they'll use text and they'll be taught knowledge about the world around them that's interesting, fun, and engaging, and those two pieces together should build a stronger foundation for them. Just so you know, that last sentence, instruction guides teachers in explicitly teaching the 150 spellings for the 44 sounds of English. So it's amazing that we all learn how to read. So the science of reading has 8 principles that are up here, and it also talks about why we want to do that. So we want equity. We have students that are coming from all different walks of life, maybe from all different parts, and they don't have the same schema, they don't have the same base knowledge, and therefore by teaching knowledge as part of the English Language Arts program, we can ensure that there's equity across. Strong background knowledge also lends to better vocabulary. So the whole idea of we don't need to teach it anymore if you can just Google it has found not to be true. By teaching and directing and showing kids what is around them, we can help them be stronger overall. Which leads us to changing our schedule and adopting Amplify. Some highlights: the school day will continue to be the same. However, the period lengths will expand to 15 minutes. There will also be a Win What I Need Now period, which will be 25 minutes that all students will have at some point during the day. And that can be used for enrichment, intervention, ESL, related services. What that little bit of time, it doesn't seem like it's much, but it's the difference between a child being pulled out of a science or social studies block to get services that they need, and or staying in and being with their classmates during that time. So if we can do this intervention or enrichment work when all kids are getting what they need, then they get to stay in class and be with their peers during social studies science blocks where historically school districts always kind of took that to get them to do more reading or math or physical therapy or occupational therapy or whatever they needed. Certain things will always stay the same, like our band orchestra lessons. It will continue to be the 12-LS program, and it will continue to be the same length of time. We are also going to departmentalize fourth grade. We've always done it in fifth grade, but we're now moving it down to fourth grade, and it will be for math, science, and social studies. So there'll be a math content expert, science content expert, and social studies content expert. And what that will do is that will provide that rich background instruction in conjunction with what the students will get through the Amplified program. I kind of went over what the WIN is, but this will also be that personalized, differentiated instruction that we know is good for children. With the fourth and fifth grade, once again, students will be, heterogeneously grouped, and the teachers will continue to differentiate based on students' needs. There will be no grade level ability grouping. And that is it. Those are references. Anybody have any questions?
I'm not an educator, but I found this whole discussion and topic about the science of reading completely fascinating. I'm not sure why, but maybe because I like baseball. But, you know, in my very little experience, it seems as though programs about reading come and go. Like, for example, my daughter, the whole language was a big deal. And then when Alex, 7 years later, when he was in kindergarten, first grade, it was back to phonics. So where does this fit in terms of whole language and phonics? Is there any piece of that in here?
So when the whole language movement started, Montville never adopted it fully. They always had the phonics program. We always had foundations. And so we taught phonics explicitly, what the sounds were and then how that builds to words and sentences and so on. What this will do, Amplify will discontinue our use of guided reading, which is Lucy Calkins. You've probably heard about her. She was through Teachers College at Columbia. What they found, and this really came about during the pandemic when parents were home with their kids and they're trying to help them. And the kids were taught strategies like, look at the pictures to try to figure out what the words mean, or you don't have to sound out every syllable. Well, that's great and all if you have pictures on the page, but when the pictures go away and you don't have anything to fall back on, like what's that sound? How many different E sounds are there? Kids struggled. So what they found was that this whole idea of balanced literacy, which was the phonics piece and also the guided reading piece, were in conflict with each other based on the science of reading research. So this, now what it adds back for us is a bigger concentration on core knowledge. When we piloted it, what we found was topics that even the teachers thought were a little, the kids love. Like there's topic, the fifth graders do a unit on Don Quixote in this program. There's the Renaissance, there's geology, there's all these different component chemistry. So they're learning through their English, and then we can build upon that by parlaying that into their actual science and social studies classes as well.
And one more question, if I can help with someone. This has to support the notion that the more time parents or grandparents spend reading to their children and or providing their children with a variety of experiences can actually help them read. Is that the sense I got from your presentation?
Yes. There's a lot of concepts.
And how did, and so why wasn't it that we were teaching about the world through our reading beforehand? It sounds like there's an emphasis on teaching about the world through learning to read. Why weren't we doing that beforehand? What's the difference between, reading before and this form of reading?
So this program Amplify puts it all together. It was siloed. It was reading, and then you learned reading strategies, like what does the, textual elements that students saw that could help them. But and then we were leading to the science and social studies to the science and social studies classes. But then we kept taking that away. Part of it is because of accountability and assessments and everything, the focus was always on math and English. And then we modeled after what assessments were given to our students. And we're finding that they don't know certain things that we grew up knowing. So now that's kind of the pendulum. If the pendulum's swinging, it always is. Let's admit it.
As long as we don't give up the box and socks. So, right,
Okay, couple things.
Mhm.
First of all, thank you for a really excellent presentation. And I must say, I'm very, very happy to see the initiatives. I think they're going to work very well. And just a commentary, as I was looking at your presentation, and there was an emphasis on what I think was rather unbalanced, if not unhealthy, emphasis towards English all the way up here, then math on the lower, then you get down to the bottom, you science, social studies. And I think a lot of that, probably philosophically, is a product of where we've come as a society over the last several decades with our test scores, English, math, and yet a lot of people saying, well, we value our schools based upon test scores. So what happens, the schools are going English, math, because that's what you need for the tests. Science is significantly lower. Social studies even lower than that, because social studies doesn't show up on the tests anymore. And then you get down to the arts, practically non-existent. And what I'm seeing now is really more of a balance where our students are going to have a better idea not only as to English and math, but for the other things that they need in society. And I believe it gives them a more well-rounded education. As a matter of fact, you see that science is up, social studies is going to be up, and even specials are going to be up. And I guess just a question, I think, I don't know what, if any, effect that could have on our test scores. I mean, it could possibly result in being somewhat lower, and if it is, you know what, I'm okay with that, because I think we're finding out over the years that test scores are a very, very poor indicator as to the type of education a student is getting, and even a worse indicator as to the kind of teacher one is. So I really think we're definitely going in the right direction here, and I commend the administration for doing it.
So I know the Amplify program, is that specifically geared to be a K-5 program?
It actually goes up to 8th grade, and we are adopting the Amplify in 6th grade.
Okay. And then I know that we had several classes piloting it, and we received positive feedback from the teachers who were piloting it. Could you just talk quickly about the strategy for training the staff and the teachers to roll out this year?
So the teachers who were in the pilot did get some initial training from the representatives from Amplify. And then we gave everybody a 6-hour training in May and June. And we made sure that they had all their resources over the summer so that they were ready to go. There is going to be some additional training for K-2 teachers, the first opening days of school, and then there'll be another full training on our October PD date. We are also working with our instructional coaches who will be going into the classrooms and working with the teachers or team teaching with them. and, it's kind of all hands on deck. And then we'll also be providing teachers with opportunities to articulate and collaborate with their peers across the district so that they can feel connected and share best practices and what's working and what's not working, because they do really need to feel supported. The nice thing about the program is that it's a one-stop shop. So even our new teachers that are coming in don't have to work with the 7 different programs for our ELA block that we used to have. It's all contained within one comprehensive, but one program.
I think it's great. Remember SLAs growing up with the color? Oh my gosh, that was the different levels of learning back then. My question is, who picks the subjects? Is it the teacher for each lesson, and how long does a lesson generally take? Like if you were doing science and.
So for this program, Amplify actually has about 9 units that are the core knowledge piece of it, and then there's a whole different section for the foundational skills, which is the phonics portion of it. They have vetted these, and they have, done this, and they've done it across the nation. And then we are able to pull out some that, but each lesson is supposed to be about 90 minutes. So they should be able to complete these within their block, but they also have time if they need to reteach, and we built in for the schedule so that they do have some downtime for other things besides just Amplify. We didn't want to take away teachers' autonomy altogether to do some of their pet stuff, projects that they like, so there should be a balance for that.
So this is my other question. It goes with the kindergartners, the entering learners. You hear these young parents now saying that these kids, they're teaching them to read at 4 years old. And then you have other learners, they're just playing, and they enter 5.5 or 6 years of age. Do your teachers find any difference between the learners who are reading before coming into kindergarten or the learners who are not, or do they just end up the same place when they get to 2nd grade? I'm just curious, because there's a lot of pressure on parents these days.
The majority of them even out. You'll always have those students that'll be accelerated for the duration of their career and probably beyond. They have they're advanced at the beginning, and then slowly other students will catch up to them. Amplify starts out, and the program starts out really slow for kindergartners. I mean, it's basically how to hold a pencil kind of thing, and then it accelerates very quickly because those foundational skills need to be set. Once those children have them, then they can take off. And any parent who's ever taught their child how to tie their shoelaces knows that it's arduous until they get it, and then it's like they've never not done it. And that's how this program is set up.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting presentation. I'm going to stop by and talk to you more about this. Anything else, Tom? Dean? No business report. Okay. Let's move on then to committee reports. Finance and facilities, Karen?
No meeting, but we will have a meeting on September 17th before that board meeting.
Okay. Curriculum, Michelle.
So we did meet before this meeting, and I want to thank Andrea, first of all, for being very informative and comprehensive at our committee meeting as well as here. She gave a lot of my report just now. But we talked about the schedule, we talked about foreign language, and we've been reviewing some of the curriculum updates to be approved yet coming here.
Okay. Policy, Joe?
Yes, we met on August 6th to review
17 policies and regulations, which are listed on the agenda tonight for first reading.
Okay, thank you. Communication, Mike Rapport's not here. Christine, safety and security.
We are working on scheduling a meeting for September.
Okay, so we are working on it. New Jersey School Boards, Karen.
I just want to make the board aware that the New Jersey Educator Evaluation Review Task Force will host a virtual hearing on Wednesday, August 28th, from 4 to 6, to gather input from educators, families, students, and other stakeholders, including board members. Details on how to register can be found on the New Jersey School Board's website. So if anyone's interested in that.
Michelle, Forest County School Board.
Just want to let everyone know the 2 meetings have been set for the fall, winter. October 2nd, there won't be hybrid meetings, but October 2nd will be at Quantic High School. The topic is mental health resources for your school district. And December 4th will be at Morristown High School, and the topic is creating an effective board culture.
Okay. Joe, Morristown Educational Services.
We had a meeting last Wednesday, just our standard business meeting. We are looking to possibly create a position for assistant superintendent for the school, the school board.
Okay, and then drug awareness.
Yeah, there's no meeting currently. We'll have first one will be on September 5th. So, yeah.
Charlie, okay. Back to you, Karen, with liaisons at Cedarville. No, actually, well, might as well skip all of those.
Yep.
No one's,
No reports.
not for another week and a half. Okay. So negotiations, Karen, did you want to say anything further about negotiations?
I just had a really
Yeah.
brief conversation with Laura, and the association is anticipating ratifying. They have though a 3-day period over which they can ratify the contract. But it looks like we have an anticipated September 10th date to approve the contract, and it looks like we'll all be on the same page by then.
So that was the special meeting on the 10th, and we'll announce it, but that would be a single item meeting just to approve the contract. Okay, so moving on to public participation, anyone wishing to address the board on anything on the agenda? There will be another participation session. Okay, so items on the agenda. Okay. Just state your name and address. Okay, you turn on.
Hello?
Yeah.
Is it okay if I ask a question with that?
Sure. Can you give us your name and
Yes,
address?
Janet James, 8 Boot now, and I have a incoming 5th grader, incoming 3rd grader, and incoming kindergartner this year.
Kindergarten?
And, yeah, and then 2-year-old. I just had a question about Amplify. Wondering what would you suggest to, like on the parent side of like looking to support the kids as looking at my girls who have been doing foundations and the other programs, and then now they're going to be switching, and then now having an incoming kindergartner who's going to do something different. One of the things that I think in my research about Amplify, I was learning that there's not like reading levels in the same way. So in the past, like the kindergarten teacher would tell me, or first grade, second grade, whatever, would say like, your child's reading on this level. I would take that at home, work with them, help them. What kind of like parent guidance is there with Amplify?
So you should get something once we start from teachers to kind of help you bridge that gap. Foundations and Amplify's phonics program are all based on Fort and Gillingham, so it's similar concepts and a similar structure for how they do it, but you'll get more, and the teachers, by back to school night should be able to support you. Yes, you're not gonna have my child's a C and needs to get to an E. There is a universal screener, that's part of it, it's called Biddle's 8, and that will provide parents and teachers with more information about where kids fall and then what we can do with them from that point.
So
read with them. I mean, that's basically it, and one of the things that the reading levels would do is, like I said, use what's on the page and the pictures to help kids determine the words. Now I would say just have the kids sound out the words, and if they know those phonemes, every single, and try to work through the comprehension from there, rereading, a lot of those same strategies apply. But now we don't ask them to guess at words, we ask them to sound them out. So that's a support that you can do with your children, and then just keep reading. It takes a lot of deliberate practice, like it says, and so that's what we just need to do with them.
My last question was to say we're implementing this through sixth grade, is that correct? So then, maximum, I have a fifth grader, starting next year, will it continue up, like as that grade goes up? Will we expect it to go into seventh, eighth grade?
We're not sure. We're going to see how well it goes, and then we'll make that determination throughout the course of the year. Usually at the seventh grade level, it kind of switches to a more high school focus, where it's English literature, not so much reading.
Any other questions, comments? Motion on consent resolutions, I second. Thank you, Charlie. Okay, any questions on the minutes? Section J, any questions on administration? K, facilities and finance. Questions on facilities and finance. Section L, personnel. We have a lot of approvals here.
Sure, we have one retirement. We have Terry Ensinger, who's been retiring. She's been working in our central office for 11 years as a human resources representative. She has supported all facets of human resources with the utmost professionalism and collaboration in working with the central office and all 7 schools. She's been proactive, collaborative, has attention to detail, and most notably, and the person who's going to miss her the most is Dr. Shorter over there. So everybody's had, when you're coming into the district and when you're leaving the district, you all interact with her. She's an expert in everything that has to do with human resources, and she will be greatly missed. She has a lot of travel plans ahead of her, and we wish her the best in her next phase of life.
That's luck. Section M, curriculum. Any questions? Comments? And then policy, section N. Any questions on policies? First reading, none. Okay, ask for a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Graff,
Yes.
Mr. Daughtry,
Yes.
Dr. Cordolino,
Yes.
Ms. Stena,
Yes?
Mr. Palma,
Yes.
Mrs. Zuckerman,
Yes.
Dr. Mograk.
Yes. Okay, no closed session. Old business, general board comments, new business. Anyone have anything to say? Karen, you're nodding your head.
I am nodding my head.
Okay, what?
Yes.
Yes. What would you like to say?
I just wanted to give a shout out to 2 of our supervisors, Sandy Schwartz of math and Tamar Spitzer of supervisor of world languages. Both of them have been asked to speak at the TCNJ Women's Leadership Summit in October. It's a conference by the School of Business and is attended by business leaders from all of the tri-state area. I've been lucky to hear Dr. Spitzer and Dr. Schwartz speak. They do a duo kind of talk. They're fantastic to watch. They inject a lot of comedy and very engaging. So I assume that as they get invited to participate in more and more conferences. And then I did want to mention, and I'm sure Charlie, who has much more experience with Mr. Cardinal than I did, express my condolences to the family of Mario Cardinal. He was a principal here for many years, and when you ever knew him, at the mention of his name, he gets a smile. And he was really too young to pass away.
It was principal of all 3 schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were in high school. It was second grade time. Mario was very
Lastly, public participation. Anyone wishing to say anything about a no? Got nothing? Okay, motion to close, or motion to adjourn?
So,
Second.
Thank you very much. See you all in September.
Oh, that's a song.
Turn off the mic.